Joining us now, Barbara Rez, former executive vice president of the Trump Organization and author of Tower of Lies: What My 18 Years of Working with Donald Trump Reveals About Him. Barbara, what's the real story here?
What's the story? Okay, we were working on a very big project in California. We were going to redo the Ambassador Hotel, tear it down and put up a big, maybe 6 million square foot project there. And we were working with local politicians and state politicians, and one of the very important politician was this man, Nate Holden. He was the representative of the district on the city council. So Donald wanted to talk to him, and I'm sorry, Donald wanted to talk to him, so I tried to set up a meeting, and I brought Nate into the city, and then Donald told us the only way he can do it is if we go with him on a helicopter ride to Atlantic City, and they can have the meeting there in Atlantic on the helicopter. So we said sure. So we went onto the helicopter. It was not Donald's personal; it was a private one. And if you remember, Donald lost 3 executives on a helicopter crash, which he said, by the way, he was supposed to be on, and of course he wasn't ever going to be on that flight. But anyway, we take off, and it's kind of bumpy. And I don't remember if it was Robert or Harvey Freeman there with 4 of us on besides Donald. 2 of his executives, Robert was his brother, but somebody said, "Oh, don't worry about that. It's the tide meeting the sound and the Hudson River, and it causes turbulences in the air." Meanwhile, I'm saying, yeah, right. I'm looking at the cockpit, and the co-pilot has this, it's like a thick ship, and he's pumping it like crazy, pumping. And finally, they said, "Look, we've lost some instruments, and we're going to have to make an emergency landing." But I mean, it wasn't like, "Oh my God, we're going to crash." It was just, we can't, keep going. So we found the closest airport, and he landed us in Teterboro, and everyone was fine. Donald was terrified. And after the whole thing was over, he was joking with Nate Holden, who happens to be a black man. And he said, "Nate, you turned white." But let me tell you something. Donald was really, really scared. I wasn't really that upset. I was more interested in watching everyone else's reaction. So we didn't have much business there. We got to Teterboro, and we got one of his commuter planes to take us to Atlantic City. And Donald comped Nate and me for lunch, and that was the end of it.
So it seems like the flight itself might have happened, and that Trump might have a memory of it being a scary moment, but Willie Brown himself was not on that plane, right?
No, I'm not sure that the depth of his relationship with Willie Brown. I don't know if they even met, but Willie Brown came to our announcement when we our press announcement, and we had a big TV announcement, and he was the Speaker of the Assembly. And I got a little friendly with him because we were doing a lot of lobbying. Right. He had this big...
If I can interrupt you, I'm sorry, Barbara, but I think what's important here is, as we're trying to parse through what's real, what's not, what's confused, Nate Holden himself, who, as you mentioned, is a former California city council member and state senator, told the New York Times that he remembers this near-death experience with Trump. It was around 1990, as you're mentioning, and he told the Times, to borrow some of your phrasing, Donald turned white as snow. He was shaking. It sounds like that tracks, but Trump himself is now claiming on social media that he has logs and records and even an article on this claimed helicopter incident. Do you expect him to present this evidence and continue to double down?
First of all, I don't know that he would have logs. It's so long ago, and it was also it wasn't his helicopter. It was someone else. So I don't think he would have any access, and it wouldn't matter. All the log would say is they took off and they landed in Teterboro.
Holden joked about this with I'm sorry, Holden joked about this with Politico, saying, quote, Willie is the short black guy living in San Francisco. I'm a tall black guy living in Los Angeles. I guess we all look alike. Barbara, in your years working with Trump, did Trump ever notice or mistake someone's identity?
I don't remember this 30 years ago, but I wouldn't be surprised if Donald didn't mix them up in his head. But what I really think is Nate was, you know, a council member, and Willie was a big guy. He was an important, impressive guy. Once Donald let him take his airplane, that I think it was in Boston, let him take it to California himself, and they just drove him to California, or flew him to California. He wanted to be in with Willie because Willie was an important guy, but no.
Barbara Rez, thank you for helping us try to make sense of a story that I think confused several of us. It helps that you were physically there. Barbara, thank you.